Hello and welcome back to the Acceleration Netcast. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the RankX function, and in particular, we're going to be looking at its third argument, the value argument, something that it's not even misunderstood, it's generally not understood at all. People usually just leave it blank and skip past it. So today, we're going to look at it and help you understand why it's there and why it's important, and what you can do with it, and when you leave it blank, why it works in the first place. So, we're going to start by looking at just sort of the function in general and these last two arguments, which are pretty easy to understand. So RankX, as you might expect, returns the rank of a store or a customer or something like that. So here we've got all these different customer IDs. These are all our different customers. We've got their total sales, and we just want to know who had the most sales and who had the least sales. So that's what you use the RankX function for. Now, regarding these last two arguments, the first one is order, and that one's pretty easy. If the order is 0 or you leave it blank, the higher the number, the highest number is first place and the lowest number is last place. If you switch the order to 1, the highest number is last place and the lowest number is first place. So if it were like, I don't know, a go-kart race or something like that, the lowest time would be the first place. Okay, so that is the order, or the fourth argument. The fifth argument is ties, and basically what that says is how you want to handle, ties. So here, if we set it to sparse or leave it blank, we get this behavior right here, where first place, well, that's just first place. There's two people tied for second place, and because of that, third place is skipped entirely, and we go over to fourth place. Okay, and here there's two people tied for fifth, and we skip and go to seventh. If there were, say, 3 people here tied for second place, we would immediately go to fifth place. By contrast, dense, if there's 2 people tied for second, the next person gets third place. I think a lot of times decision makers prefer this, but sometimes when you're writing formulas, this is actually more useful. That's sort of up to you. That's sort of, I wouldn't call it an aesthetic choice, but it's going to depend on the business case. Okay, well, that's the first two arguments, that's the last two arguments. The first two arguments, as if you've used this before, even if you didn't really know how it worked, you do something like this, where the first argument is some table, usually a column, usually whatever this column here is in the pivot table, wrapped with an all function, wrapped inside of an all function, and then some measure that you're going to use to do the ranking. So in this case, it's total sales. So we're going to rank the customer ID by total sales. Okay, so that's how you normally do it. You don't even enter a third argument, or you leave it blank. Let's look at that in a bit more depth. So here's the thing we just saw before. What I want you to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take this second argument here, and I'm actually going to move it. I'm going to move it up here. So it was here, and I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to rename all of them, actually. The reason I want to do that is because I want you to think of these two arguments as sort of working together to create something that we're going to need in the function, right? So even though they're two separate arguments, they're sort of part of the same argument. And what I mean by that is whenever you do RankX, what you're really doing is sort of 3 things. The first thing you're going to do is get some list of values. The second thing you're going to do is get a single value. And the third thing you're going to do, or I should say Power Pivot is going to do, is find out where the single value would fall in the list of values. Okay? So don't even worry about how we get these lists or single values. Let's just step through this. Get a list of values. Let's just say, however we get it, we get this list. 22, 65, 71, 93. Doesn't matter how we got it, that's just the list. That's the first step. Now we get a single value, 68. And the third step is find out where the single value would fall in the list of values. Well, this is already sorted, so 22, 65. So it would be between these two, so it would be third place. So the rank would be third place in this instance. Okay, what about this one? Here we got a list of values. Who cares how we got it? Well, that's 22, 65, 71, 93. Same list. Now the value is 93. And I say, well, third step, where would the single value fall in the list of values? Well, it would be here. It would be tied for fourth place, and hence the rank is fourth place. Okay, so if you can follow me along with that, we can head back up here, and maybe I can sort of explain why I've put these two things next to each other, and why this third argument even exists. So when we create a list of values, what we're really doing is we're going to take a table, and we're going to add a temporary column to that table, and the values in that temporary column are going to make up our list. Okay? So these two things here create the list. The third argument is what calculation you want to do to create this single value. And 99% of the time, this formula and this over here are going to be the same thing, but they don't have to be. And you could use that to your advantage if you want to do some sort of advanced tricks. Okay, so again, the way RankX works is it's going to use these two arguments to create a list of values. It's going to calculate this single value here and find out where this single value would lie in this list. So if that's a little conceptual, let's look at an example. Maybe that'll help you understand it. Okay, so here I've got a pivot table, right? And I've got row labels as year, quarter, as I guess I should say it's a quarter label. So this is 2013, quarter 1 through 4. And I've actually got a slicer here. So I've already added to the filter context 2013. So we're only looking at quarters in 2013. And I've got my total sales. That's pretty easy. You've seen that one before. And I've got two rank measures. The first rank measure is the simple rank measure. And what that does is it just gives you the total sales ranking for all sort of the visible quarters, right? So of all the quarters I could see, this is the most profitable, this is the least profitable because it's got 1 and 4. This one's third most profitable, and this one is second most profitable. Okay, next door I've got the rank for all quarters, and this is similar, but rather than just ranking it against the quarters that I see, I'm going to rank this against all the quarters that exist independent of this slicer. So it's ranked against all quarters all time. So here, Q1 of 2013 is the most profitable of all time. Here, 2013 Q2 is the 10th most profitable, right? Even though there's only 4 quarters that we could see here, if you could see all the quarters from 2012 to 2014, this here would be the 10th most profitable. Okay, so that's what the measures are. Let's take a look at how they work. The first one is the simpler one. This is rank simple. And here it is, like displayed. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our table. So argument 1, all dim cal quarter label. That's going to produce this table right here, right? So since we wrapped it in an all, it's going to ignore this year context, and it's going to give us all the quarters, okay? Then the second argument is, what do we want to add as our custom column to create our list? Well, we're just going to use the measure total sales. So we're going to add a column of total sales to this table, and we get this table right here. So here's what we had before, and we've added this temporary column, and it's got the total sales. Now keep in mind, when you calculate this total sales, the all here ignores the slicer in the creation of this table, but there's no calculator around here to ignore this, so the total sales respects this slicer, so we only get values for quarters in the year 2013. So for all the other quarters, we get blanks. So we only get these 4 values. Okay, so that's our list. It's 8 nulls and then these 4 values. All right, so step 2 is calculate the single value that we want to compare to the list. Well, that again, it's going to be the same thing. So it's total sales up here, and it's also total sales right here. But now we're not calculating it as a temporary column. We're just calculating it in this particular context, in this filter context. And so here we've got 2013 Q4, so we're going to calculate total sales for there. We're going to end up with that number. And step 3, once again, is we find out where this number falls in this list. And it turns out, if we sort it, largest to smallest, let's see, 24206, well, it's going to be tied for second. So it's going to be tied for second, and hence we get second place. All right, so now that's sort of an example of how it worked mechanically. Let's look at an example of why you might want to not use the same measure for both arguments 2 and 3. Most of the time you will. Sometimes you might not want to. Like, this example here, we want to find the rank not just for all the quarters listed, but for all quarters of all time. Well, how do we do that? Well, again, here's the formula down here. We're going to start. Argument 1 is an all dim cal quarter label. We get the same exact table. We get this same exact table. But now, instead of a total sales, we've got a total sales wrapped inside a calculate, and we've got this all call here, which is calling all the calendar years. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to wipe this out from the filter context for this total sales calculation. So as before, let's see, let me resort this. As before, here the total sales Well, since this is sliced out with this slicer, we get blanks here. Here, because we've got this calculate with the all dimcal year cal ID, it ignores the slicer, and we get numbers for every single quarter, except for this last one where it's not, the fact table doesn't have information for 2014 Q4. So we get all the quarters that have data for them in the fact table, regardless of what the slicer is doing. Okay, so now we've got our new list. And the second step, so we've got our list of values. Now we need to calculate the single value. And then for the single value, we just want regular old total sales. So we're going to, again, it's within this context. So there's a slicer for 2013, and we're looking at 2013 Q4. And so total sales is 24,206. And now we say, step 3, where does this single value fall in this list? And it ends up being, let's see if I've got this sorted, 24,206 there, which ends up being the 8th position. And that's how we get 8 right there. So I think this is a pretty good example, or at least helps demonstrate what it is that's going on with RankX, why this third argument even exists, and how you could, even if you want to, make the third argument not the same as the second argument to produce a different or more interesting result. All right, well, I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video. Hi there, quick PostScript. I realized I left out something that's reasonably important. Maybe you already knew it, maybe not. So when you head over, let's head back over here to concepts. With the RankX function, if you go back to our very first example here with this RankX, you'll notice there is no third argument. That's quite intentional, because with RankX, if you leave the third argument blank, it ends up using the second argument as the third argument, right? So if I head over here, if I leave the value, the formula we want to use to calculate the value blank, it's going to use the same formula or expression, whatever you want to call it, that you used up here for the second argument, right? So here, these are 3 equivalent definitions. So if I do RankX all dimcal customer ID and total sales, it'll automatically assume that total sales is also what I want to use for the third argument, or I can explicitly say that I want to use total sales and total sales again, which is very clear, but maybe a little confusing or redundant for somebody. Or maybe you're just lazy. You don't want to type, and you just don't want to type that last argument. And that's fine, too. Also, alternatively, you can also do RankX and total sales, leave a comma, and just have it be completely blank. Or, let's see, you can also do something like, I don't know, let's say you want to change the order from ascending to descending. Well, you don't want to do 2, you want to do 1. And you want to do dense or something. Well, you could just do that. And if you leave this blank, it's automatically going to assume that this third argument, you want to use the same measure as the second argument. All right, well, that was my PostScript. I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.